Your daughter-in-law is here with some men. She says she's the new owner and is going to take the furniture. Leo's voice sounded nervous on the phone. It was 5 o'clock in the morning, and I was at the beach house, still lying in bed, with the window open letting in the sea breeze. I had come here after Elijah's wedding, seeking peace, distance, a break from everything I had been feeling in recent months. I sat up slowly in bed. I didn't feel panic. I didn't feel surprise. I felt something strange, almost like satisfaction. Don't stop her, Leo. My voice came out calm, serene. Let her in. She's going to find a surprise. There was a confused silence on the other end. Are you sure, Miss Rose? Completely sure. Let her pass with her men. Just make sure she signs the log with her full name and her ID. I hung up and immediately opened the app on my cell phone. The security cameras I had installed 3 weeks ago. No one knew about them. Not Elijah, not Rebecca, not even my friend Claire. They were small, invisible, strategically placed in every corner of the apartment. Living room, kitchen, bedrooms, main entrance. All streaming live and recording directly to the cloud. The image appeared on the screen. There she was, Rebecca Tierra, my daughter-in-law of just 4 months, standing in the lobby of my building, talking to the men accompanying her, 3 big guys, in moving company uniforms. One of them was carrying empty boxes. Another was checking something on a paper. Rebecca had her hair up, wearing workout clothes, as if she had come to exercise. But her face showed something else. Anxiety, hurry, determination. I watched her talk to Leo. She gesticulated a lot, pointing towards the elevator. Although I couldn't hear what she was saying, I read on her lips something that made me grip the phone tighter. It's my right. It belongs to me now. I touched the screen and switched to the camera in my floor's hallway. It was still empty, silent. My apartment door closed, intact. I went back to the lobby image. Rebecca was already entering the elevator with the 3 men. Leo stayed behind, watching them go, his face worried. Good man. He had worked in that building since I moved in, 10 years ago. He knew my routine, knew I was alone since I was widowed, always greeted me with respect. I took a deep breath. My heart was beating fast now, but not from fear. It was anticipation, like when you know something important is about to happen and you, for the first time in a long time, are in control. The elevator went up. 6th floor, 7th, 8th, 9th. My apartment was on the 10th. I watched the doors open and Rebecca came out first, hurried, followed by the men. She walked straight to my door. She took something out of her purse. A key, my key. The image was clear. The hallway camera captured everything. Rebecca put the key in the lock, turned, and the door opened. They all went in. The apartment light came on. And then, I switched to the interior cameras. There they were, in my living room. Rebecca was looking around with that expression I had seen before, calculating, evaluating, as if she were appraising every object, every piece of furniture, every detail of my life. The men waited for instructions. That sofa first, I heard her say clearly. The camera's audio was perfect. And that table. Be careful with the vases. Those are expensive. One of the men looked at her strangely. Are you sure the owner gave permission? Rebecca looked at him with annoyance. I am the owner now. My mother-in-law signed everything over to me. That old woman, she can't take care of these things anymore. It's better if they're with me. I stayed still, watching the screen, listening to every word. Old woman, can't take care. The same phrases I had heard from her mouth for months, but now said with that confidence, that certainty that I wasn't there to contradict her. Another man asked, and the documents? We usually need to see something in writing. Rebecca pulled a paper from her purse. She showed it quickly, without letting them read it well. Here it is. Everything legal. Now, move. We have to finish before it gets too light. Before it gets too light. Before anyone sees. Before the neighbors wake up and ask questions. Before someone calls the police. But it was already too late for that. Because while she was talking, while the men were starting to lift my furniture, While Rebecca was checking the drawers of my sideboard looking for who knows what, the cameras were recording everything. Every movement, every word. And not only that, the app had already sent an automatic alert to my lawyer, Olivia Reed, and to the nearest police station. I set up that system 3 weeks ago, 3 weeks after the dinner at Elijah's house, where I felt sick, 3 weeks after starting to notice strange things, 3 weeks after hearing Rebecca talk on the phone in a low voice about speeding up the process. I looked at the screen again. Rebecca had entered my bedroom now. I saw her open my closet, check my vanity, put her hand in my jewelry box. She took out a necklace that my late husband had given me for our 20th anniversary. She looked at it against the light, smiled, and put it in her pocket. "I'll take this too." One of the men appeared in the doorway. "Ma'am, there's a lot of stuff here. Are you taking everything?" Rebecca turned around. "Everything that's worth anything. My mother-in-law doesn't need it anymore. She's in a better place now." The way she said it, as if I were already dead, as if my life had already ended, and she was just picking up the pieces. I closed my eyes for a moment. I took a deep breath. The sound of the sea calmed me. When I opened them again, I touched another icon on the app. The cameras had a special function. They could record conversations even when people thought they were talking in private. Rebecca had gone back to the living room. She took out her cell phone and called someone. She waited. Then she spoke. "I'm inside." "Yes, with the key I got last week." "No, she's not here. She's at the beach house like always. This is going to be quick." Pause. She was listening to someone on the other end. "No, the tea thing didn't work. It seems she stopped drinking it, but it doesn't matter anymore. This is enough. Once I have everything here, I'm going to make Elijah sign the papers. He doesn't suspect a thing." Another pause. Then, a laugh. "Obviously, he's not going to like it at first, but when he sees it's already done, what's he going to do? She doesn't have anyone else. We're her only family." My hand tightened on the phone. The tea thing, those afternoons at Elijah's house, when Rebecca insisted I stay for a snack, when she prepared me that herbal tea, she said, was good for circulation, for sleep, for nerves. That tea after which I always felt dizzy, confused, with nausea that lasted for hours. It wasn't my paranoia. It wasn't an old woman's imagination. It was real. Rebecca kept talking. "Look, with what's in here we can sell at least $20,000, and that's not even counting the apartment. When we sell it, that's like $200,000 more. We'll be set for years. And she won't even be able to fight it. By the time she realizes, everything will already be in our name." She hung up. She stood in the middle of my living room, looking around with that smile. Satisfied, victorious. I sat on the bed, at the beach house, with the phone in my hand and tears I didn't know were there until I felt one roll down my cheek. It wasn't about the furniture. It wasn't about the money. It was about the betrayal. It was about realizing that my son had married someone capable of this. It was for all those times I doubted myself, that I thought I was exaggerating, that I told myself I was just a jealous mother-in-law, a bitter old woman who couldn't accept sharing her son. But it wasn't that. Rebecca Tierra had planned to rob me. She had tried to poison me. And now she was in my house, in my space, touching my things, taking my life piece by piece. I looked at the time. 5:25 in the morning. The police should have received the alert by now. Olivia too. In any moment, things were going to change. But before that happened, I needed to understand how I had gotten here. How a 60-year-old woman, a widow, independent, who had raised her son alone after her husband died, who had worked her whole life, who had bought this apartment with her own money, had ended up being seen as an obstacle, as something to be moved out of the way. I needed to remember where this all began. It all started 4 months ago, when Elijah called me to say he had met someone special. I was at the salon, with Claire by my side. Every week we went together, on Thursday afternoons. It was our ritual for years. We got our hair done, we got our nails done, we caught up on our lives. Claire was 62 years old, 2 years older than me, and a widow too. We had met in a morning walking group at the park, and had been inseparable ever since. When the phone rang and I saw Elijah's name, I smiled. My son didn't call as often as he used to, but when he did, it always brightened my day. Mom, I have to tell you something. His voice sounded different. Excited, nervous. Tell me, son. I met someone. An incredible woman. Her name is Rebecca. We've been dating for 3 months, and I think she's the one. I sat still under the dryer. Claire looked at me curiously. 3 months, and I knew nothing. 3 months, and he had never introduced her to me. I swallowed the little pang I felt in my chest and smiled, even though he couldn't see me. That's wonderful news. Elijah, I'm so happy for you. I want you to meet her. What if you two come over for dinner at my place on Saturday? You and your friend Claire. If she wants to come. I accepted. Of course I accepted. He was my son. My only son. The man I had raised alone after his father died of a heart attack when Elijah was just 17. 13 years had passed since then. 13 years in which my life had revolved around making sure he was okay, that he finished college, that he got a good job, that he was happy. Saturday arrived, and I went to his apartment with a bottle of wine and a dessert I had bought at Elijah's favorite bakery. Claire came with me. She always said I needed witnesses at the important moments of my life. Rebecca opened the door. She was younger than I expected, 32 years old. I would find out later. Almost 15 years younger than Elijah. Tall, thin, with long, dark hair, perfect makeup, expensive clothes. She smiled widely when she saw us. Rose, what a pleasure to finally meet you. Elijah talks about you all the time. She hugged me. It was a long, tight hug, as if we were old friends. She smelled of a sweet, strong perfume. We went in. Elijah's apartment looked different, more decorated. There were new cushions on the sofa, pictures on the walls, scented candles lit. The table was set with placemats and cloth napkins I didn't recognize. Rebecca has great taste for decorating. Elijah appeared from the kitchen, smiling proudly. We had dinner. Rebecca had cooked. Meatloaf, salad, roasted potatoes. Everything was well presented, although a bit bland for my taste. But I ate and smiled and said it was delicious because I saw how Elijah looked at her, waiting for my approval. During dinner, Rebecca talked a lot. About her job at an ad agency, about her plans to open her own business someday, about how wonderful Elijah was, about how happy she was to have met him. She asked about my life too. Where I worked, if I was retired, if I lived alone, if I had many friends. It must be hard to be alone in that big apartment, she said at one point, in a compassionate tone, especially at your age. At my age, I was 60, not 80. I worked part-time as an accounting consultant, went to the gym 3 times a week, had a group of friends I went out with regularly, drove my own car, paid my own bills, traveled when I wanted. I didn't feel alone. I didn't feel incapable. But the way she said it, as if it were an obvious fact, made me uncomfortable. I'm fine, I replied simply. I like my independence. Rebecca smiled. Of course. But still, if you ever need help with anything, Elijah and I are here. We're family now. Family. They had been dating for 3 months, and she was already talking about family. Claire gave me a sideways glance. I knew that look. It was her way of saying, be careful. After dinner, Rebecca insisted on making tea. I brought some special herbs. They're great for digestion and for relaxing. She came back from the kitchen with 4 steaming cups. The tea had a strange smell, something between mint and something more bitter that I couldn't identify. I drank a little out of politeness. Claire barely touched hers. Elijah drank his completely, praising the flavor. Rebecca watched us as we drank, smiling. Half an hour later, I started to feel dizzy, a slight dizziness at first, then stronger. The living room seemed to be moving slightly. I told Elijah I'd better go, that I was tired. Claire drove me home in my own car because I didn't feel capable of driving. I don't like that woman, Claire said when we were in the elevator going up to my apartment. There's something strange about her. And that tea, did you taste it? I had noticed it too, but I didn't want to admit it. I didn't want to be that mother-in-law, that woman who never accepts anyone because no one is good enough for her son. In the following weeks, Rebecca started to appear more in my life. calls to invite me for coffee, text messages asking how I was. Surprise visits to the apartment with Elijah, always friendly, always smiling, always with that tone of concern that seemed genuine, but that made me feel watched. Are you eating well, Rose? You look a little thin. Are you sleeping enough? You have dark circles. Isn't it a lot for you to live alone on a 10th floor? What if something happens to you and no one finds out? Each comment was like a drop of water. One alone means nothing, but when they accumulate, they start to make a whole. Elijah changed too. He started repeating Rebecca's same phrases. Mom, are you sure you're okay? Rebecca says she sees you looking tired. Mom, wouldn't it be easier if you lived in a smaller place? Mom, you should think about the future, about what will happen when you can't take care of yourself anymore. I was 60 years old. I worked. I went out. I traveled. But suddenly they were making me feel as if I were on the verge of incapacity. A month later, Elijah called me with other news. They were getting married. In 3 months. Rebecca had already planned everything. A small, intimate wedding, just close family and a few friends. I, of course, would pay for part of the expenses. I was the mother of the groom. It was my responsibility. I contributed $5,000. Money I had saved for years. Money I had set aside for emergencies or for a special trip. But it was my son's wedding. How was I going to refuse? The wedding was nice. Rebecca wore a stunning white dress that, according to Elijah, had cost $3,000. There were flowers everywhere, live music, expensive food, all very elegant. I smiled in the photos. I hugged my son. I welcomed Rebecca to the family. But during the reception, I heard something that chilled my blood. I was in the bathroom, touching up my makeup, when I heard voices on the other side of the door. It was Rebecca talking to someone. A friend, I assumed. I'm telling you, this marriage is the best investment I've ever made. Elijah is easy to handle, and the old woman has money. An apartment that's worth like $200,000. Savings. A beach house. And the best part is, she has no one else. Just Elijah. Everything is going to be ours eventually. The other voice laughed. And what if she doesn't want to? That's why I'm working on it. I already have her half convinced that she's too old to take care of her things. Give it a few more months and she'll be begging us to help her. They left the bathroom. I stayed inside, gripping the sink, trying to breathe. It wasn't my imagination. I wasn't being paranoid. Rebecca Tierra had planned everything from the beginning. That night, at the beach house where I went after the wedding, I made a decision. I was not going to be a victim. I was not going to let them steal what I had built. I was not going to stay silent while they treated me as if I were an obstacle that needed to be moved out of the way. I called Olivia Reed, my lawyer and friend for years. I told her everything, every strange detail, every out-of-place comment, every moment I had felt manipulated. Rose, you need to protect yourself, she told me, and you need proof. Because if this becomes a legal issue, your word alone won't be enough. She's going to say you're confused, that you're paranoid, that your age is affecting you. It was Olivia's idea to install the cameras. Small, invisible cameras, with high-quality audio, all over my house, connected to an app on my phone, programmed to record everything and send automatic alerts if someone entered without my permission. If she tries anything, you'll have proof, Olivia said, and that proof will bury her. I installed the cameras 3 weeks ago. I changed the locks too, but I left an old key hidden where I knew Rebecca would find it. I wanted her to think she still had access. I wanted her to feel secure. And it worked. Because now, while I was sitting at the beach house watching my phone, she was in my apartment, stealing my things, confessing her plans, burying herself. 2 weeks after the wedding, while I was still processing what I had heard in the bathroom, Rebecca began the next phase of her plan. She invited me to lunch at her apartment. Well, now it was her and Elijah's apartment. He had bought it 2 years ago with my help, a $15,000 loan he never paid back. But it didn't matter. He was my son. I wanted to help him. I arrived with a plant as a housewarming gift. Rebecca opened the door wearing an apron, as if she had been cooking all morning. The house smelled like homemade food. She hugged me with that same exaggerated enthusiasm as always. Rose, how lovely. Come in, come in. Elijah is at work, but I wanted us to have some time alone, to get to know each other better. We're family now. I sat on the sofa. The same sofa I had helped Elijah buy. Rebecca brought lemonade in tall glasses with ice and mint. While we drank, she asked me about my daily routine. Do you still go to the gym 3 times a week? Isn't that very tiring for you? No, I like going. It keeps me active. She nodded with that understanding expression. It's admirable, but you have to be careful. At a certain age, the body doesn't respond the same. My grandmother fell at the gym 2 years ago. She broke her hip. She never walked right again. I took another sip of lemonade. It tasted strange, too sweet, with a bitter aftertaste. And that apartment? So big, Rebecca continued. 10 floors up, so many rooms. Don't you feel lonely there? Aren't you afraid something will happen and no one will find out? I have friends who live nearby. Claire stops by often. Yes, but still. A woman your age living alone. Elijah worries a lot about you, you know? He always says it makes him anxious to think about something bad happening to you. My age. Again. As if 60 years was synonymous with incapacity. We had roast chicken with vegetables for lunch. The food was fine, though again a bit bland. Rebecca insisted I eat more, serving me large portions. After lunch, she made that tea again. The same one from the first dinner. The same herbs with that strange smell. It's wonderful for digestion and helps you sleep better. You mentioned you sometimes have insomnia. I had never mentioned that. I slept perfectly well. But she said it with such certainty that for a moment I doubted my own memory. I drank the tea out of politeness. This time the bitter taste was stronger. I forced myself to finish it while Rebecca watched me with that fixed smile. Rose, I want to talk about something important. She leaned forward, as if sharing a secret. Elijah and I have been thinking. You have a lot of properties, a lot of responsibilities. The apartment, the beach house, the bills, the taxes. Wouldn't it be easier if we helped you manage all that? My heart beat faster. I manage my things fine. Of course, I'm not saying you can't, just that sometimes it's good to have help. Someone younger who understands technology, banks, all those modern things. We could make Elijah a co-owner, for example, just for security, so that if anything happens to you, everything is in order. Co-owner. That word hit me like ice water. I don't think that's necessary. Rebecca kept the smile, but something in her eyes changed. Well, think about it. It's just a suggestion. We only want to take care of you. Half an hour later, I started to feel sick again. The same dizziness from the first time. Nausea. The room was moving slightly. I told her I'd better go. Rebecca insisted on calling a cab, saying I wasn't in any condition to drive. She was right. I wasn't. In the cab on the way home, I opened my WhatsApp. I had messages from my gym friends group, photos of Claire in the park, a video of my niece from Spain. Real people, real life, reminding me that I wasn't alone or useless like Rebecca wanted to make me feel. The following days, Rebecca's calls and messages intensified. Good morning, Rose. Good afternoon. How did you sleep? What did you do today? Every message disguised as concern, but which felt like surveillance. Elijah also started asking strange questions. Mom, did you pay the electric bill this month? And the water? Are you sure? As if suddenly I were incapable of remembering to pay my own bills. Bills I had paid for 40 years without a problem. One afternoon, I was in the living room with Claire when Rebecca showed up unannounced. She rang the bell, came up without me giving permission, and arrived at my door with a grocery bag. I brought you a few things. Fruit, bread, milk. I was passing by and thought of you. Claire was sitting in my living room. She looked at Rebecca with that expression I already knew. Distrust. How nice, I said, taking the bag. I hadn't invited her in, but she entered anyway. What a huge apartment. She walked through the living room, looking at everything, touching the furniture. And these paintings. They must be valuable. They were my husband's. Beautiful. It must be hard to keep all this clean. So many rooms, so many things. Haven't you thought about simplifying? Selling some things? Moving to something smaller, more manageable? Claire stood up. Rose manages her house perfectly. Rebecca looked at her as if she had just noticed her. Of course. I'm just saying that sometimes less is more, especially as one gets older. Getting older. As if I were on the verge of senility. After she left, Claire exploded. That woman is a viper. Don't you see what she's doing? She's undermining you. Little by little, making you doubt yourself. Preparing the ground for something. I know, I finally admitted. I heard something at her wedding. She married Elijah for the money, for my properties. Claire was silent for a moment. And what are you going to do? I don't know yet, but I need to be smart. If I confront her now, she'll deny everything. She'll say I'm paranoid, that my age is affecting me, and Elijah will believe her. She has him that controlled. I nodded. Since they got married, Elijah is a different person. He repeats everything she says. He looks at me differently, as if I'm a burden. The next day, Rebecca sent another message. We need to talk about something important. Can you come to dinner tonight? I went. Against my better judgment, I went. Because I still had that little sliver of hope that I was wrong, that Rebecca really did care. That my son hadn't traded me for a woman who only saw dollar signs where there should be family. Dinner was tense. Elijah was quiet. Rebecca talked non-stop. After dessert, she pulled out some papers. Rose, we prepared something. She put them on the table. It's a power of attorney. Simple, nothing complicated. Just so Elijah can help you with your bank accounts, with the payments, with the properties. You just have to sign here. I looked at the papers. My name was written there. Blank spaces for my signature. Legal words I barely understood. I'm not signing anything without my lawyer reviewing it first. Rebecca's face hardened for a fraction of a second. Then the smile returned. Of course, it's smart to be careful, but this is just to make things easier for you. So you don't have to worry about anything. I'm not worried. I manage my things fine. Mom, Elijah finally spoke. His voice sounded tired. We're just trying to help you. Why are you making it so difficult? Why was I making it difficult? As if taking care of my own things was an act of stubbornness and not common sense. I stood up. I'm going. Rebecca stood up too. It's okay. Take the papers. Think about it. But really, Rose, this is for your own good. We just want to protect you. Protect me. That word haunted me all the way home. Because I knew that when people say they want to protect you, sometimes what they really want is to control you. The week after I refused to sign the papers, everything got worse. Elijah stopped answering my calls as frequently. When he did, his answers were short, cold. Rebecca, on the other hand, called me more. Always with that sweet, worried voice that already set my nerves on edge. Rose, Elijah is very sad. He says you don't trust him, that you rejected him when he only wanted to help. I was at the park with my walking group, 5 women between 55 and 68 years old, all widows or divorced, all independent. We met 3 times a week at 6 in the morning to walk 3 miles around the lake. Afterward, we'd have coffee at the stand and catch up on our lives. I didn't reject anyone, I told Rebecca, moving a little away from the group. I just said I needed to review the papers with my lawyer. That's normal. Yes, but Elijah felt like you don't trust him, like you think he's going to do something bad to you. Rebecca, they're my properties. I have a right to be careful. There was a silence. Then her voice changed slightly. Colder. Of course. You're right. Well, I hope your lawyer tells you everything is in order. We just want what's best for you, even if you don't see it that way. She hung up. I went back to my friends. Sharon Davis, the oldest of the group, looked at me with concern. Everything okay? My daughter-in-law. Ah, Sharon knew the story. They all did. I had told them everything. That woman needs clear boundaries. I know, but it's hard. Elijah is completely on her side. Tanya Price, who was 61 and had been a nurse for 30 years, came closer. Rose, are you still feeling dizzy after visiting them? Yes. Every time I drink that tea she makes. Don't drink anything else she gives you. Nothing. Not food, not drink, nothing. Do you think she could really be putting something in it? Tanya looked at me seriously. I've seen cases. People who use herbs, medications, anything to make a person seem confused, sick, incapable. Then they say the person needs help, that they can't take care of themselves, and they end up taking control of everything. Her words chilled me. Because it made sense. Everything made sense. That afternoon I went to see Olivia Reed. Her office was downtown, in an old but well-maintained building. Olivia was 65. With completely white hair, she wore short, thick glasses and a brilliant legal mind. She had been my lawyer since my husband died. I showed her the papers Rebecca had wanted me to sign. Olivia read them in silence. Her expression grew more and more serious. Finally, she put them down on her desk and looked at me. Rose, if you had signed this, you would basically be giving Elijah complete power over all your accounts, your properties, your financial decisions. They could sell your apartment without your consent. They could empty your bank accounts. They could do whatever they wanted. I felt like I couldn't breathe. But Rebecca said it was just to help me, to help themselves. This isn't a help document. This is a power transfer document, and it's written in a very clever way. Any judge who sees it will think you're not in a condition to manage your own affairs. What do I do? Olivia leaned back in her chair. First, never sign anything without consulting me. Second, we need to protect you legally. I'm going to draft documents that clearly establish you are in full command of your faculties, that you make your own decisions, and that no one has authority over your assets except you. Third, and this is important, you need proof of what's happening. What kind of proof? Recordings, messages, anything that shows they are manipulating you. Because if this goes to court, and I suspect it might, your word alone won't be enough. They'll say you're confused, that your age is affecting you, that you need help. They'll paint you as a senile old woman who doesn't know what she's doing. That word old, as if being 60 automatically made me invalid. What if I install cameras in my apartment? Olivia raised an eyebrow. Cameras? To record if they try to enter without my permission, or if they say something compromising when they're there. It's your property. You have every right to install security cameras, and yes, they could be useful as evidence. I left her office with a plan. That same afternoon, I searched online. I found small wireless cameras with high-definition audio. They connected to an app on the phone. They recorded automatically when they detected motion. They saved everything to the cloud. A package of 6 cameras cost $800. I bought them without a second thought. They arrived 3 days later. I spent a whole afternoon installing them, in the living room, hidden behind a picture frame. In the kitchen, on top of the refrigerator. In my bedroom. On the bookshelf. In the dining room. In a decorative plant. In the study, behind some books. At the entrance, camouflaged in the smoke detector, I downloaded the app, set up the notifications, tested that they worked. Everything perfect. I also changed the locks on my apartment, but in a smart way. I hired a locksmith and asked him to leave the old lock installed, but useless, and to put a new one right below it. From the outside, it looked like there was only one lock. But the old key that Rebecca had probably copied no longer worked. And then I waited. I didn't have to wait long. 2 days later, I was at the grocery store when my phone vibrated. Notification from the cameras. Movement detected in the apartment. I opened the app. My heart beat fast. It was Rebecca. She was in my living room, alone, walking slowly, looking at everything. She opened the drawers of my sideboard. She checked the papers that were there. She took photos with her phone of some documents. Then she went to my bedroom. She opened my closet. She checked my jewelry box. She took a ring my husband had given me and put it in her purse. She stayed almost 20 minutes in my apartment, checking, photographing, touching my things, as if they were already hers. When she left, I sat in the middle of the grocery aisle, my shopping cart forgotten beside me, staring at my phone. My hands were shaking. It wasn't paranoia. It was real. Rebecca was planning to rob me. That night, Elijah called. Mom, Rebecca told me you're not treating her well, that you ignore her, that you're cold to her. Elijah, how did Rebecca get into my apartment today? Silence. What? She was in my apartment this afternoon. You gave her a key. She said she needed to pick up something she had lent you. I didn't borrow anything from her. And she was going through my drawers, my documents, my personal things. Does that seem normal to you? Mom, don't start with your theories. Rebecca wants to help you, and you just push her away. You're being paranoid. Paranoid. That word again. Elijah, I have cameras. I recorded her, going through my things, taking photos of my documents, stealing a ring. Another silence. Longer. Cameras? Since when do you have cameras? Since I started to suspect something wasn't right. This is ridiculous. You're spying on your own family. Mom, I think you need help. Professional help. Maybe talk to a doctor about this. A doctor. They wanted to declare me incompetent, mentally ill, convenient. I don't need a doctor. Elijah, I need you to understand that your wife is not who you think she is. I'm not going to listen to this. Rebecca is my wife, and if you can't accept her, then maybe we need to take some distance. He hung up. I was left with the phone in my hand, in my empty apartment, feeling like everything was collapsing. My only son had just chosen a woman he'd known for months over the mother who had raised him alone for 13 years. But I wasn't going to give up. I called Olivia. I told her everything. I sent her the camera videos. This is perfect, she said. We have evidence of breaking and entering, and if she stole something, it's theft too. Rose, you've got her. And now what? Now we wait. Let her believe she's in control. Let her keep making moves. The more she does, the more evidence we have. It was the hardest advice to follow, because every fiber of my being wanted to confront her, to scream at her, to show her that I knew. But I stayed quiet, and I waited. The ultimate humiliation came at the family lunch Rebecca organized 2 weeks later. She called me on a Tuesday morning. Her voice sounded cheerful, as if nothing had happened, as if I didn't know she had entered my apartment without permission, that she had stolen my ring, that she had photographed my documents. Rose, I want us all to get together this Sunday. A family lunch. I'm going to invite my mother and my brother too. It'll be nice for you to meet. I almost told her no. But then I remembered Olivia's words. Let her believe she's in control. The more she does, the more evidence we have. All right, I'll be there. Perfect. And Rose, please bring the documents for the beach house. Elijah and I want to help you organize the tax papers. You know, those things get complicated at a certain age. At a certain age, every time she said it, it was like a small blow. On Sunday, I arrived at her apartment at noon. I rang the bell and Rebecca opened. She was wearing an elegant dress, perfect makeup, a radiant smile. Rose, so good to see you. Come in, come in. In the living room were Elijah, an older woman I assumed was Rebecca's mother, and a young man in his 30s who must have been the brother. There was also another couple I didn't know. They are Raymond and Helen Ortega, my aunt and uncle, Rebecca said. I sat on the sofa. Rebecca's mother looked me up and down with an expression I couldn't decipher. The brother didn't even greet me, just nodded while checking his phone. Rebecca brought wine. I politely declined and asked for water. I wasn't going to drink anything she gave me. I had learned that lesson. During lunch, Rebecca dominated the conversation. She talked about her business plans, about how well Elijah was doing at work, about how happy they were together. I ate in silence, answering only when asked something directly. After dessert, Rebecca changed her tone. Well, now that we're all family, there's something important we want to share. She looked at Elijah. He looked uncomfortable but nodded. We've been worried about Rose. All eyes turned to me. Lately, we've noticed she's very forgetful, Rebecca continued with that soft, worried voice. She forgets things. She gets confused with dates. The other day she called me thinking it was Thursday when it was Sunday. That was a lie. It had never happened. And she's been very paranoid, she added. She installed cameras in her apartment because she thinks someone is spying on her. She accuses us of things we haven't done. Rebecca's mother made a pitying sound. Poor thing. It's normal at that age. My mother was the same before we had to put her in a home. I felt the heat rise to my face. I'm not confused. And I installed the cameras because someone entered my apartment without my permission. Rebecca looked at me with an expression of infinite patience, like one looks at a child who is talking nonsense. Rose, I came in because you had told me I could stop by to pick up that book you lent me. Don't you remember? I never lent you any book. See? Rebecca looked at the others. This is what I'm talking about. She doesn't remember things. Elijah intervened. Mom, we're worried. Really? Living alone in that big apartment isn't safe for you anymore. You've had falls. I have never fallen. You fell in the bathroom 2 weeks ago. You told me on the phone. That also wasn't true. I had never said that. Rebecca's brother spoke for the first time. Look, ma'am, I know it's hard to accept, but my grandmother was the same. She started by denying anything was wrong, and she ended up lost in the street, not remembering her address. I stood up. I'm not going to stay here and listen to this. Rebecca stood up too. Rose, please sit down. This is important. We love you. We want to help you. That's why we prepared a solution. She pulled some papers from a folder that was on the table. Different papers from the first time. We spoke with a lawyer. This is a voluntary guardianship. Basically, you agree that you need help managing your affairs and you authorize us to do it for you. It's for the best. That way, you can continue to live peacefully without worrying about anything. I looked at the papers. Then I looked at Elijah. My son, the man I had raised, wouldn't meet my eyes. I'm not signing that. Rebecca's mask fell for a second. I saw pure rage in her eyes. But she quickly composed herself. Rose, if you don't sign voluntarily, we'll have to start a legal process. We have witnesses. She pointed to everyone in the room. Everyone here can confirm that you're not well, that you're confused, that you need help. A judge will order a psychological evaluation, and when that evaluation shows you can't take care of yourself, they'll assign you a guardian anyway. It's better if it's family, don't you think? It was a trap. A perfect trap. If I signed, I lost everything. If I didn't sign, they would force me legally, and they had witnesses willing to lie for her. I felt something break inside me. It wasn't fear. It wasn't sadness. It was a cold, absolute clarity. I need to go to the bathroom. Rebecca smiled. Of course. It's the first door on the left. I went to the bathroom. I locked the door. I took out my phone. I texted Olivia, my real lawyer. They're trying to force me to sign a guardianship. They have false witnesses. I need help. Her response came in seconds. Don't sign anything. Get out of there. I'm starting legal action immediately. We have the recordings. This is coercion. I took a deep breath. I splashed water on my face. I looked at myself in the mirror. I saw a 60-year-old woman. Tired, yes. Scared, too, but not defeated. I left the bathroom. Everyone was waiting for me in silence. I'm not signing, I said in a clear voice. And if you try to force me, my lawyer will take legal action against all of you for coercion and fraud. Rebecca stood up. Fraud? How dare you? I know exactly what you're doing. I know you entered my apartment without permission. I know you stole my ring. I know you've been making things up about me to make it seem like I'm incapacitated. And I have proof of everything. The room fell into absolute silence. Elijah finally looked at me. Mom, what are you talking about? Ask your wife about the gold ring she took from my jewelry box 2 weeks ago. Ask her about the photos she took of my documents. Ask her about her phone conversations where she talks about my apartment as if it's already hers. Rebecca laughed, a nervous laugh. This is ridiculous. Elijah, do you see what I'm talking about? She's delusional. I have recordings, I said simply. Cameras with audio, all over my apartment, recording every time someone enters, saving everything to the cloud. And my lawyer has copies of everything. I turned to Elijah. Son, I love you, but your wife married you for money, for my properties. And she has been trying to make me seem incapable so she can take it all. That's not true. Rebecca's voice was sharp now. Elijah, don't believe her. She's sick. She's seeing things that don't exist. But Elijah was looking at me differently now, as if he were finally seeing something that had been there all along. I grabbed my purse. I'm leaving. And the next time someone enters my apartment without my permission, I'll call the police. I left. No one stopped me. In the elevator, going down, my hands were shaking. I had broken the silence. I had shown my cards. But I had no other choice. Outside, in my car, I sat for a long time. The phone rang. It was Claire. How was lunch? Horrible. I'll tell you later. Are you okay? No. I wasn't okay, but I was going to be. I'm going to be. I drove to the beach house. I needed to be away. I needed to think. I needed to prepare for what was coming, because now Rebecca knew that I knew. And desperate people do desperate things. That same night, from the beach house, I called Olivia. I need to protect myself, legally. Now. We met the next day. She came all the way to the beach with a folder full of documents. We sat on the terrace with the sound of the waves in the background as she explained every step we were going to take. First, we're going to get a full psychological evaluation with a certified professional to prove you're in full command of your mental faculties, that there's no dementia, no confusion, nothing to justify a guardianship. I nodded. How long does that take? A week. Maybe 2. It's several sessions, cognitive tests, interviews. But it's essential because when Rebecca tries to say you're incapacitated, we'll have recent medical evidence that contradicts it. What else? We're going to update your will, and we're going to put in very specific clauses that no property can be sold or transferred without your express authorization before a notary, that any change requires the approval of 2 independent witnesses. Basically, we're going to armor plate everything. I took mental note of everything. You also need to change your bank accounts. Open new accounts at another bank. Transfer your money there. Accounts that only you have access to. Don't even tell Elijah they exist. And the beach house? That's just in your name, right? Yes. I bought it 5 years ago with money from my job. Good. We're going to make sure that's very clear in all the records. And we're going to install cameras here too. If Rebecca tries to get in, we'll know. I spent the next few days executing the plan. I went to a forensic psychologist Olivia recommended. Dr. Julian Hayes, a 50-year-old man with 30 years of experience evaluating mental capacity. He gave me memory tests, reasoning tests, temporal and spatial orientation tests. He asked me about my life, my routines, my financial decisions. It was exhaustive. But when we finished, he gave me his verdict. Mrs. Rose, you are perfectly competent. There are no signs of cognitive decline, no confusion. There is nothing to justify someone else making decisions for you. I will write up a full report, and if necessary, I will testify before a judge. I left his office with a feeling of relief mixed with anger. Relief because I had confirmation. Anger because I needed that confirmation in the first place. Because my own family had made me doubt my sanity. I opened new bank accounts. At a different bank, in another part of the city, I transferred my savings, $53,000 that I had accumulated over years, money that represented my security, my independence, my future. I updated my will. The new clauses were clear. If anything happened to me, the apartment and the beach house would be sold and the money would go to a foundation helping elderly women. Nothing for Elijah, as long as he was married to Rebecca. Olivia was named the executor. It's drastic, I admitted as I signed, but I can't take the risk. It's smart, Olivia said. And you can change it later if things get better. But for now, you're protected. I installed more cameras at the beach house. Reinforced the locks. I left clear instructions with the neighbors that no one was to enter without my direct authorization. During those days, Elijah called me several times. I didn't answer. I wasn't ready. I needed to have everything in order first. Rebecca called too. She left voicemails. At first, she sounded worried. Sweet. Rose, please answer. We're worried. What happened on Sunday was a misunderstanding. Then the messages changed tone. You can't hide forever. We need to resolve this. And finally, barely veiled threats. If you don't talk to us, we're going to have to take legal action. For your own good. I saved every message. Every recording. Everything was evidence. A week later, I returned to the city. I had a meeting with Olivia at her office. When I arrived, she had a grave expression. Rose, Rebecca, and Elijah have started legal proceedings. They're requesting an evaluation of your mental capacity. They're alleging you're a danger to yourself. I felt a pit in my stomach. They can do that? They can try. But we're prepared. We have your psychological evaluation. We have the camera recordings. We have evidence that Rebecca entered your apartment without permission, that she stole items, that she has been slandering you. When we present all this to the judge, their case is going to fall apart. When is the hearing? In 2 weeks. But before that, I have something else to show you. She took out her laptop, opened a video file. It was a recording from my apartment cameras. From 3 days ago, when I was at the beach. On the screen, Rebecca appeared. But this time, she wasn't alone. She was with a man, tall, thin, with a briefcase. "Who is that?" I asked. "Keep watching." In the video, Rebecca and the man walked through my apartment. She showed him every room. He took notes, took photos, as if he were appraising the property. "He's a real estate agent," Olivia said. "Rebecca is trying to sell your apartment." My apartment, the place I had lived for 10 years, the home I had built after my husband died. She was selling it behind my back. But she can't do that without my signature. She can't do it legally. But listen to what they're saying. She turned up the volume. Rebecca's voice was clear. "The apartment is worth around $200,000. Maybe more. It's in a great location. My mother-in-law is going to be in a nursing home soon, so we need to sell it fast." The agent asked, "Do you have the papers in order?" "Almost. We're in the process of getting the guardianship. Once we have that, we can proceed with the sale immediately." "And she agrees to this?" Rebecca laughed. "She's not in a condition to agree or not anymore. That's why we need the guardianship. But don't worry, it'll all be legal." The video ended. I stared at the black screen. A nursing home. They wanted to put me in a nursing home, sell my apartment, take my money, erase me from my own life. "There's more," Olivia said. She opened another file. This time, it was an audio recording. A phone call. Rebecca's voice speaking to someone. "I already found the perfect nursing home. It costs $1,000 a month. With the money from the apartment sale, we can pay for years. And in the meantime, we get to keep the beach house. We can use it or sell it too. That's another $100,000, easy." The other voice, which sounded like her brother's, asked, "And what if she resists?" "She can't resist. Once we have the guardianship, she has no say. And if she makes a fuss, it just confirms she's crazy. It's perfect." I closed my eyes. The pain in my chest was physical, real, as if something had broken inside. "When did you record this?" I asked. 2 days ago. The cameras caught her call when she was in your living room, talking calmly about how they're going to dispose of your life. I opened my eyes. The sadness was turning into something else, something cold and hard. "What else did the cameras catch?" Olivia looked at me seriously. "There's something else. And it's bad." She opened a third video, dated 1 week ago. Rebecca was in my kitchen, alone. She opened the cabinet where I kept my spices. She took a small vial from her purse. She emptied it into my sugar container. Then she mixed it with a spoon. She put the empty vial back in her purse, and she left. "What was that?" My voice sounded strange, distant. "We don't know. But we need to find out. Do you still have that sugar?" "I haven't been in the apartment for a week." "Good. We're going to go now. We're going to take a sample, and we're going to have it analyzed at a lab." We went immediately. We entered my apartment with gloves. Olivia took out a sealed bag. She opened the sugar container. With a clean spoon, she took a sample. She sealed it. "I'm taking this to a private lab. We'll know what it is in 48 hours. Those 48 hours were the longest of my life. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I just thought about that vial, about Rebecca mixing something in my sugar, about all the times I had coffee with sugar in the past few weeks, about the dizziness, the confusion. When Olivia called with the results, I already knew they would be bad. It was a sedative. benzodiazepines in high doses, enough to cause disorientation, dizziness, short-term memory problems. If you had kept consuming it, it would have eventually caused symptoms that looked just like dementia. I sat down slowly. She was poisoning me. Yes, and we have the video evidence. Rose, this isn't just financial manipulation anymore. This is attempted physical harm. This is criminal. 2 days after discovering the poison, I was at the beach house when the alert came. 5 o'clock in the morning. The phone vibrated against the table. Leo, the security guard. Your daughter-in-law is here with some men. She says she's the new owner and is going to take the furniture. I opened the camera app. There she was. Rebecca Tierra, standing in my building's lobby with 3 big men, moving company uniforms, and a truck parked outside. Don't stop him, Leo. Let her in. She's going to find a surprise. I hung up and immediately called Olivia. She answered on the second ring, her voice alert. Rose, what's wrong? Rebecca is in my building. She's here to take my furniture, with men and a truck. Perfect. Don't do anything. The cameras are recording everything. I'm calling the police right now. Give me your apartment address. Breaking and entering in progress. What if they take something before they arrive? Even better. More charges. Just stay calm. This is exactly what we needed. She hung up. I sat on the bed, my heart pounding, watching my phone screen. I watched as Rebecca talked to Leo. How he, following my instructions, asked her to sign the log with her full name and ID. How she did it without hesitation, convinced she had every right. I watched them get in the elevator. Go up, floor by floor. Arrive at the 10th. Walk down the hallway to my door. Rebecca took a key from her purse, the old key, which no longer worked. She put it in the lock, turned. It didn't work. She tried again. Nothing. I saw her curse. One of the men asked something. She checked her purse, took out another key, probably a copy she had made. It didn't work either. Wait here, she told the men. She took out her phone, called someone. From the movement of her lips, I could read her saying Elijah's name. She waited. The call went to voicemail. She called again. Same thing. I saw her take a deep breath, put the phone away, stare at the door with determination. Then she bent down and took something else from her purse. A thin card. She tried to jimmy the lock. This is illegal, one of the men said. Ma'am, if you don't have a key, we can't go in. I have a right to be in here. This is my property now. My mother-in-law signed it over. Do you have papers to prove it? Rebecca pulled a crumpled paper from her purse. She flashed it at them. Here. Power of attorney. All legal. The man looked at it more closely. This isn't signed by the owner. Yes, it is. Her signature is right there. Ma'am, I've been in the moving business for 15 years. I know a fake signature when I see one. This isn't real. Rebecca snatched the paper back. Look, I'll pay you double if you help me get in. I just need to get a few things. Quickly. The men looked at each other. One of them shook his head. No. This isn't right. We're leaving. I'll pay you $3,000. In cash. Right now. $3,000. To help her rob me. The men hesitated. But finally, 2 of them nodded. The third one stepped back. I don't want any trouble. He walked toward the elevator. Rebecca and the 2 remaining men began to force the door. One of them took out a tool. He started working on the lock. My phone vibrated. A text from Olivia. Police are on the way. ETA 5 minutes. 5 minutes. In 5 minutes, everything would change. The door gave way. It opened. Rebecca went in first. She turned on the lights, and the 2 men followed her. That sofa first, Rebecca ordered, pointing to my leather sofa I had bought 3 years ago. And that table. Those vases. Everything that's worth anything. The men started to work. They lifted the sofa, moved it toward the door. The cameras captured every movement from 3 different angles. Rebecca went to my bedroom. I watched her open my closet, check my jewelry box again. She took more things. Necklaces, bracelets, earrings. All gifts from my late husband. All with more sentimental than monetary value. But to her, They were just objects to sell. She went back to the living room, took out her phone, made another call. Yeah, I'm inside. I had to force the door, but I'm in. We're taking things out now. Pause. She was listening. No, she's not here. She's at the beach. By the time she finds out, we'll have everything sold. Another pause. Then a laugh. I told you this would work. The old woman is too stupid to protect herself properly. The old woman. Stupid. She kept talking. With what's in here, we can easily make 20,000, and that's not counting what comes next. Once the judge approves the guardianship, we'll have access to everything. The apartment, the beach house, the bank accounts, everything. The person on the other end said something. Rebecca laughed again. What's she going to do? Call the police? She has no proof of anything, and if she does, it'll just confirm that she's crazy. Paranoid. Exactly what we need for the incapacity case. A long pause. Then her voice changed. It became colder. Look, I already tried with the tea, but she stopped drinking it. And then I tried with the sugar. I put in enough sedative to keep her confused for weeks, but that didn't work either because she's barely been in the apartment. So we have to do this by force. Take what we can now and fight for the rest later. My hand tightened on the phone. She was confessing. Everything. Poisoning. Theft. Conspiracy. And the cameras were recording every word. One of the men appeared at the entrance. Ma'am, this is taking too long. Someone could call the police. Relax. No one's going to call. Just get what's left and let's go. But then I heard something else. Sirens. Distant at first, then closer. The cameras didn't have exterior audio, but I could see Rebecca tense up, how she went to the window, how she looked down and her face went pale. No, 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 no. She ran to the men. Leave everything. Let's go. Now. But it was too late. The hallway cameras showed the exact moment the elevator doors opened and 4 police officers came out. In uniform, hands on their weapons, approaching my open door. Police, nobody move. I saw Rebecca try to run for another exit. How one of the officers stopped her. How he pushed her against the wall. How he put the handcuffs on her. Let me go. You don't understand. I have a right to be here. This apartment is mine. Ma'am, you're under arrest for breaking and entering. No, no, call my husband. He'll explain. His mother gave me permission. The owner of the apartment, Mrs. Rose, filed a complaint. We have a warrant for your arrest. The 2 men were also handcuffed. One of them was yelling that he just worked for the moving company, that he didn't know anything. The other was quiet, head down. I watched them take Rebecca out of my apartment. How she screamed, fought, insisted on her innocence. How the neighbors came out of their apartments, watching, whispering. My phone rang. Olivia, did you see it? Everything. The recordings are already being sent to the DA's office. We don't just have breaking and entering. We have attempted theft, document forgery, and most importantly, we have her confession about the poisoning. Rose, this is a solid criminal case. I was silent for a moment. Processing. After months of manipulation, of feeling invisible, of doubting myself, there was finally justice. And now what? Now Rebecca is going to spend the night at the police station. Tomorrow she has a bail hearing. We're going to present all the evidence. The recordings, the lab analysis of the sugar, everything. The DA is going to ask for her to be denied bail because she's a danger. And Elijah? Olivia sighed. That's the hard part. Elijah doesn't appear in any of the recordings doing anything illegal. Rebecca acted alone. We can prove she planned everything, that she entered without permission, that she poisoned the sugar. But Elijah, we don't have proof that he knew. He had to have known. Maybe, but legally, we need proof. And for now, we don't have it. I hung up. I sat on the bed, watching the sunrise through the window. The sky was painting itself orange and pink. The sea was calm. My phone vibrated again. A message. From Elijah. Mom, please. I need to talk to you. Rebecca's been arrested. I don't understand what's happening. Please call me. I looked at the message for a long time. My son. The man I had raised. The man who had chosen a criminal over his own mother. I didn't answer. Not yet. The bail hearing was 3 days later. Olivia insisted that I be present. They need to see you. They need to see you're not a confused old woman like Rebecca wants them to believe. They need to see a strong, coherent woman who knows exactly what was done to her. I dressed carefully that morning. A gray pantsuit, white blouse, closed-toe shoes. Nothing flashy, just professional. Dignified. Claire came with me. She sat beside me in the courtroom, squeezing my hand. When they brought Rebecca in, I almost didn't recognize her. No makeup, her hair unkempt, wearing an orange prison jumpsuit. She looked small, vulnerable, but when her eyes met mine, I saw the same coldness as always. Elijah was there too, in the back row. He looked destroyed. Red eyes, wrinkled clothes, as if he hadn't slept in days. He looked at me with a pleading expression. I looked away. The judge entered. A woman in her 50s. A serious expression. She reviewed the documents in silence. Then she spoke. Miss Rebecca Tierra, you are charged with breaking and entering, attempted theft, document forgery, and attempted poisoning. How do you plead? Rebecca's lawyer, a young man in a cheap suit, stood up. Not guilty, Your Honor. My client had a right to be in that apartment. Her mother-in-law suffers from dementia and had given her verbal permission. The judge looked at him skeptically. Do you have proof of this verbal permission? Not at this time. But, then it's not relevant. The judge turned to the prosecutor. Does the prosecution have evidence? The prosecutor, an older man with years of experience, stood up. Yes, Your Honor. We have video and audio recordings of the defendant entering Mrs. Rose's apartment without authorization. We have recordings of the defendant confessing to adulterating food with sedatives. We have lab analysis confirming the presence of benzodiazepines in the victim's sugar. And we have witnesses who confirm the defendant forced entry with the help of third parties. Rebecca leaned toward her lawyer, whispering furiously. He shook his head. Your Honor. The prosecutor continued. Miss Tierra represents a clear danger to the victim. For months, she has been trying to make her appear mentally incapacitated to take her properties. She went so far as to poison her. If she is granted bail, there is a risk she will try to contact the victim or destroy additional evidence. The judge looked at Rebecca. Anything to add, Miss Tierra? Rebecca stood up. Her voice was trembling. Your Honor, this is a horrible misunderstanding. I love my mother-in-law. Everything I did was to help her. She's confused. She doesn't understand what she's saying. The recordings are quite clear, the judge said dryly. Those recordings are taken out of context. I was joking on the phone. I never poisoned anything. The lab is wrong. The judge reviewed more papers. It says here, you also initiated legal proceedings to obtain guardianship over Mrs. Rose, alleging mental incapacity. Is that correct? Yes, because I was worried about her. Because I love her. But Mrs. Rose voluntarily submitted to a full psychological evaluation with Dr. Julian Hayes, who determined she is in full command of her mental faculties. No signs of dementia, no signs of confusion. How do you explain that? Rebecca stammered. The doctor must be mistaken. Or she fooled him. My mother-in-law is very manipulative when she wants to be. To hear that, after everything, calling me manipulative, when she was the one who had planned to rob me, poison me, lock me in a nursing home. The judge closed the folder. I've heard enough. Bail is denied. Miss Tierra will remain in custody until trial. Given the circumstances and the severity of the charges, especially the attempted poisoning, I find that she represents a danger to the victim and to society. Rebecca screamed, No! This isn't fair. Elijah, do something. Elijah stood up. Your Honor, please. My wife wouldn't do this. There has to be a mistake. The judge looked at him. You are the victim's son? Yes. Did you know about your wife's actions? Elijah hesitated. That hesitation condemned him. She told me my mother needed help, that she was confused. I just wanted to protect her. Protect her by forging documents and trying to steal her properties? No, I never. The DA will determine your level of involvement in this. For now, I suggest you hire a good lawyer. They took Rebecca away, screaming, crying, blaming. First, she blamed me, then Elijah, then the system. She never blamed herself. We left the courtroom. In the hallway, Elijah caught up to me. "Mom, wait, please." I stopped. I turned. I looked at him. Really looked at him, for the first time in weeks. "Did you know?" I asked simply. "What?" "About the poison. About the plans to sell my apartment. About the nursing home. Did you know?" Elijah shook his head, but his eyes wouldn't meet mine. "She told me you were sick, that you needed help. I believed her." "You believed her over me? Your wife of a few months over your mother, who raised you alone for 13 years. I didn't know it would go this far. You have to believe me." "You didn't know?" "Elijah, how many times did I tell you something was wrong? How many times did I tell you I felt sick after visiting you? How many times did I try to tell you Rebecca wasn't who she said she was? And every time, you called me paranoid. You told me I was exaggerating. You made me doubt my own reality." His voice broke. "I'm sorry. You're sorry." The anger I had been holding back for months finally came out. "I almost ended up in a nursing home. Elijah, your wife poisoned me. She made me feel crazy. She planned to steal everything I have. And you helped her. Maybe not directly, but your silence, your denial, your decision to believe her and not me, that was helping her too. Mom, please. She's my wife. I have to support her." Those words, like a final blow. Then support her. Visit her in jail. Pay for her lawyer. Stay by her side while she faces criminal charges. But don't ask me to understand. Don't ask me to forgive. Because I had to make a choice too. And I chose to protect myself. I chose to believe in myself when no one else did. So, what? I'm not your son anymore? You'll always be my son. But that doesn't mean I have to accept how you treated me. That doesn't mean everything goes back to the way it was. Because it can't. Not after this. Claire took my arm. "Rose, let's go." I looked at Elijah one last time. I saw the boy he had been, the young man I had raised, the man he had become. And I realized I had failed at some point. Not in raising him, not in loving him, but in teaching him that love doesn't mean sacrificing your dignity. That family can't ask you to erase yourself. "If you ever understand what you did," I told him, "if you ever truly comprehend the damage you caused, then we can talk. But until that day, I need distance." I turned and walked away. In the car, Claire drove in silence for a while. Then she spoke. "You did the right thing. It doesn't feel like the right thing. It never does at first. But in time, you'll see it was necessary." That night, alone at the beach house, I sat on the terrace looking at the sea. My phone rang. A message from Olivia. "The DA is proceeding with all charges against Rebecca. The trial will be in 3 months. Your testimony will be critical. Are you ready?" I looked at the message. 3 months. 3 months of waiting, of remembering, of reliving it all. But also 3 months of healing, of rebuilding, of learning to be myself again. I replied, "I'm ready." And I was. Because for the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid. I had clarity, I had strength, and I had something Rebecca could never take from me. I had my truth. The trial came 3 months later. During that time, I lived peacefully at the beach house. Claire came to visit me every weekend. My friends from the walking group called often, sent me messages of support, photos of their lives. Sharon sent me a video of her granddaughter dancing. Tanya shared healthy recipes, small gestures that reminded me I wasn't alone. I went back to the gym. I resumed my yoga classes. I cut my hair shorter, a change I had wanted to make for a long time but never dared. I took selfies with Claire at the salon and posted them on my WhatsApp. I felt alive again, free. Elijah tried to call me several times during those months. I didn't answer. I wasn't ready. Maybe I never would be. And I had to accept that possibility. The day of the trial, I arrived early. I wore a light blue dress, simple but elegant. Olivia was waiting for me at the courthouse entrance. "Ready?" she asked. "Ready." The courtroom was full. People I didn't know. Press. Apparently, the case had attracted attention. A story about an older woman defending herself against a manipulative daughter-in-law resonated with many. Rebecca entered with her lawyer. She looked different, thinner, her hair shorter, but her eyes were still the same. Cold, calculating. The trial lasted 2 weeks. They presented evidence after evidence. The camera recordings were played in the courtroom. I saw the jury members react when they heard Rebecca confess to the poisoning. I saw their faces of disgust when they watched her going through my drawers, stealing my things, planning my confinement. The lab analysis of the sugar was presented. The doctor who analyzed it testified that the amounts of sedative found were enough to cause severe confusion, short-term memory loss, disorientation, symptoms that could easily be mistaken for dementia. Dr. Julian Hayes, the forensic psychologist, testified about my evaluation. He explained in detail that I was completely competent, that there were no signs of cognitive decline, that I was an intelligent and articulate woman in full control of her mental faculties. Leo, the security guard, testified about the morning Rebecca arrived with the men. He confirmed she had claimed to be the new owner, that she had tried to take my belongings. The movers who accompanied her also testified. One of them, the one who refused to participate, explained that Rebecca had offered them $3,000 to help her force the entry, that she had shown them false documents. And finally, it was my turn. I took the stand. I swore to tell the truth. I sat in front of a room full of strangers who now knew the most intimate details of my life. The prosecutor asked me questions about my relationship with Elijah, about how I met Rebecca, about the changes I noticed, about the dizziness, about the manipulation, about the fear. I spoke in a clear, firm voice, without crying, without being dramatic, just the truth. "She made me doubt myself," I said at one point. "She made me feel like I was losing my mind, that my age had made me incapable. And the worst part is, I almost believed her. I almost accepted that maybe I was confused, that maybe I did need someone else to make decisions for me." "But then you realized something important?" the prosecutor asked. "That being 60 years old doesn't make me incompetent. That being a widow doesn't make me vulnerable. That living alone doesn't make me weak. I am a woman who worked her whole life, who raised a son alone, who bought her own properties with her own money, and no one has the right to take that away from me. No one has the right to make me feel less than what I am." I saw several women in the audience nod. I saw tears in some eyes. Rebecca's lawyer tried to discredit me during cross-examination. He asked about my age, about whether I took medication, about whether I sometimes forgot things. But every question had a clear answer. I didn't take medication. I didn't forget things. And my age was not a disease. After 2 weeks, the jury deliberated. 3 hours later, they returned with the verdict. Guilty. On all counts. Rebecca screamed. Her lawyer tried to calm her, but there was nothing to be done. The evidence had been overwhelming. The sentencing came a week later. 5 years in prison for breaking and entering, theft, and document forgery. 3 additional years for attempted poisoning. 8 years in total. When the judge delivered the sentence, I felt something strange. It wasn't joy, it wasn't satisfaction, it was closure. It was the confirmation that my truth mattered, that defending my dignity had been worth it. I left the courthouse with Olivia and Claire. Outside, there were cameras, reporters. Several asked me for statements. Olivia spoke for me, saying we were satisfied with the outcome, that we hoped this case would serve as an example. But one reporter approached me directly. "Mrs. Rose, do you have anything to say to other women who might be going through similar situations?" I looked at the camera. I thought of all the women who had written to me during the trial. Older women who felt invisible in their own families, who doubted themselves, who accepted mistreatment because they believed it was their duty as mothers, as grandmothers. "Yes," I said. "If something doesn't feel right, trust your instinct. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter if people tell you you're exaggerating or that you're paranoid." You know your life. You know your mind. And you have the right to protect yourself. You have the right to say no. You have the right to set boundaries. Even with family. Especially with family. That night, at the beach house, I sat on the terrace with a glass of wine. The sea was calm. The sky was full of stars. My phone vibrated. A message from Elijah. Mom, I saw the verdict. You were right about everything. I don't know how to apologize. I don't know if you'll ever be able to forgive me. But I need you to know that I am sorry. For everything. For not listening to you. For choosing wrong. For making you suffer. I'm starting the divorce. I don't want to have anything to do with someone capable of hurting you. I love you. I've always loved you, and if you ever want to talk, I'll be here. I read the message several times. I felt something soften in my chest. It wasn't forgiveness yet. But maybe, with time, it could be. I didn't reply that night. But I saved the message. The following months were about rebuilding. I sold the city apartment. Too many dark memories there. I bought a smaller, more modern one, near the gym and my friends. A new place for a new chapter. I traveled. To Spain, where my niece welcomed me with open arms. To Argentina, which I had always wanted to see. To places I had put off for years, because there was always something more important to do. I signed up for painting classes. I discovered I liked it. I wasn't good, but it didn't matter. It was mine. My time, my passion. Claire and I started a small business together. Accounting consultancy for older women who needed help with their finances. There was a real need. Many women who had never handled money, who depended on children or relatives who felt lost. We helped them. We taught them. We gave them tools to be independent. A year after the trial, Elijah and I met for coffee. It was awkward at first, but we talked. Really talked. He about his therapy. About how he was learning to recognize manipulation. About his divorce process. Me about my new life, my travels, my business. We didn't go back to what we were before. That relationship had died. But we were building something new. Something based on mutual respect. On clear boundaries. On honesty. One afternoon, 2 years after everything, I was at the salon with Claire. We were getting our nails done, laughing about something silly, when my phone vibrated. A message from my niece in Spain, with a photo of her newborn baby. Claire looked at me. Everything okay? I smiled. Yes, everything is fine. And it was. Finally. Because I had learned the most important lesson of my life. Taking care of others is beautiful. But taking care of yourself isn't selfishness. It's survival. It's dignity. It's self-love. For so many years, I had taken care of everyone. Of my husband when he was sick. Of Elijah as he grew. Of whoever needed me. But finally, after 62 years of life, I was the one deciding who to take care of. And I chose myself. And that choice saved my life.